Hey again, Rockets. All right, back with lesson 7 for you. I got a stylus. We'll see. Maybe this will be the trick here. All right, today we're looking at comparing numbers and distances from 0. So we're going to use absolute value and negative numbers to think about elevation. So this is definitely going to be similar to lesson 6 that I recorded a few minutes ago. So we're looking at opposites, where A is a rational number. We have to choose a value and a point for A and plot it on the number line. Okay, well, all it has to be is a rational number, and we get to choose where it goes. So we can literally pick any spot because a rational number is simply a number that we can plot on the number line. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can even be fractional because it's a rational number, not an integer. But for sake of ease here, I'm going to pick the number 2. It says pick one, pick a rational number, and literally we're going to label it as A. Based on where you plotted A, now we need to plot negative A on the same number line. All right, well, we put A at 2. So negative A is the opposite of that. So it's just going to be the same distance from 0, but going the other direction down the number line. So since this is 2 spaces away from 0, negative A is also going to be 2 spaces away from 0, but it's going to be to the left or to the back side. We're asked what the value of negative A is that we plotted. Well, it's 2 places behind the 0, so it is going to be negative 2. Noah said if A is a rational number, negative A will always be a negative number. Do you agree with Noah? Explain your reasoning. All right, so negative A is always going to be the opposite of the number that we chose. So if we had chosen 5, let's say, then, so if we had, oops, let me switch colors here just for, so if we had put it up here, if that's 2, 3, 4, and 5, if I call that B, let's say, I'm just picking a different point, well, then negative B would be same distance from 0. So, but going the opposite ways. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would call that negative of what I had there. So negative B. Well, will it always be a negative number? Rational numbers include negative numbers. So if I started this, if the number I had chosen would have been a negative number to begin with. So if I had chosen this point here as my A value, then the opposite of that, the reverse of it, the negative of that, would have been to the other side of 0, just as far away. So the stylus doesn't look like it's working any better than my finger, but do you agree with Noah? Explain your reasoning. So I'm going to disagree with Noah here because if the number I had chosen to start with was a negative, then the opposite of a negative is a positive. So no, I don't agree. Man, that looks like a 6. And the reason I don't agree is because if we start negative, the opposite is then positive. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, remember, we've got live math help every day of the week, so make sure you get with one of us math teachers. Does not have to be your normal math teacher. Even if you're in Fitz's class or Jacoby's class and you want to hop on with me, or if you're in my class and you want to hop on with one of them, we're welcome. We're happy to have any of you guys if you need some help. All right, so we're going to look at a submarine now. Submarines go under the water. I'm assuming you're probably familiar with what a submarine is. And it's at an elevation of negative 100 feet, 100 feet below sea level. We're going to compare the elevations of these 4 people to that of the submarine. All right, so we're going to keep comparing to this submarine, this negative 100-foot submarine. So Claire's elevation is greater than that elevation of the submarine. Okay, greater. So it's got to be closer to 0 or above 0 if it's greater. She's no lower, she's no deeper. Claire is farther from sea level than the submarine. Okay, greater, but also farther. So she can't be deeper, so she's not negative 101, 102. She's got to be somewhere above that, but she's further away from 0. Well, the only way to go further from 0 would be to be at 101, 102, 103, and upward, or even 100.5. That's still further. However, if we went negative 101, we'd be deeper in the water. So she's got to be above sea level here in order for this to work. So she's got to be above, man, this is not better, sea level. Good luck trying to figure out. That looks like something written in the pyramids more than handwriting. Andre's elevation is less than the elevation of the submarine. Okay, less, lower. We're getting deeper. Andre is further away from sea level than the submarine. Okay, he is farther, just like Claire was farther. However, he's farther, but he also is less. So he's in a different situation than Claire. He's going to be deeper. And if we're at, sorry for the pause, I had to sneeze there. Further away from sea level than the submarine. So, all right, less, lower, further away, more than 100 feet away from sea level, but going lower. So this is going to be something negative, and it's going to be a negative number beyond 100. So negative 100.1 or negative 135 or negative 200. We don't know the exact at this point, but we do know that it is deeper down, further down than that submarine. So negative, and it's going to be something beyond the number 100. Hans' elevation, however, is greater. Okay, again, we've got greater as the word. So this number is going to be above. He's going to be less deep than the elevation of the submarine. He's closer to sea level, so he's going to be closer to 0. Now, this elevation, he could be above sea level, but just a little bit above sea level. He could be below sea level, but just not as low as that submarine down there. Those are still both possibilities. So this one's pretty up in the air right now as far as an exact number, but we know that he's not as low as the submarine if his elevation is greater than that submarine is. So this guy is going to be above the submarine. So I'm just making some little notes here to myself. And finally, we've got some information about Lynn. And Lynn is trying to get a different color I haven't used yet, but not yellow. Lynn's elevation is the same distance away from sea level as the submarines. Same distance away from sea level. So Lynn could be scuba diving right there next to the submarine because she's at the same distance. Or, absolute value is the distance from 0, she could be 100 feet away from sea level, but in the positive direction, above it. So the number 100 is going to be involved in her number. She's either going to be at negative 100 right there next to that submarine, or she's going to be 100 feet above sea level and she's going to be up, I don't know, on a mountain peak or skydiving or something, because 100 feet's pretty high above. She's standing on a skyscraper or something. So we've got some notes here to go with. Now, this is really going to be trying to see how I can not erase this, but still be able to see things, so I can kind of scroll back and forth here. So we're going to complete the table as follows. We need to write a possible elevation for each person, use greater than, less than, or equal to symbols to compare the elevation of the different people to the submarine, and use absolute value to tell how far away the person is from sea level. And sea level is our 0 in this situation. So we've got this table here. Now, perhaps if I give myself a code with this color code to keep track, that's going to help us out. So this is Claire in purple. I've got Andre in red. I've got Hans in blue. And Lynn is in orange here, although it looks a lot like the red. I guess I could have used green. All right, let's see if by having those little keys there, that'll help me get through this table without having to scroll back and forth a million times. I guess Andre, I didn't really write a whole lot other than a negative. All right, so Claire, they already filled in for us that a possible elevation for her is 150 feet, positive. We had made the little notes, she was our purple, that she would be above sea level, and 150 feet is above. Comparing her to the sea level, well, it said that she was greater than the sea level, so we're going to use that greater than symbol. Remember, those symbols are hungry, so to speak. They open toward the greater, larger quantity. And then finally, when we talk about distance from sea level, well, distance from 0, sea level is 0, absolute value is a distance from 0, it's a positive number, and it's my hero. So that's what those kind of vertical railroad track looking symbols are. So if we apply to Andre, that same thing, so I am going to slide back up for Andre for a second here. We said that he would end up being a negative number because he is less than the elevation of the submarine. So he's going to be even deeper down in that water. Less is left if we're talking about horizontal, or less is lower if we're talking vertical. So he's further from sea level than the submarine, so he's going to be a negative number, and he's going to be deeper than negative 100. So there's multiple correct answers here. It's not just a one and done kind of answer. So I was using red for Andre, so I'm going to try and stick with red here. So a possible elevation, well, we could say he's at negative 101. That's going to be deeper or further below, lower in the ocean than the submarine was. Now, if we talk about his elevation, which we said was negative 105, and we compare that, oops, no, we didn't. We said 101. Sorry. Somehow I forgot that in the last, 1 second. All right, sorry, quarantine brain. Negative 101 is lower, less than, so I'm going to use that symbol that shows less than, the small part of the symbol near the lower number is less than where the submarine was, which was negative 100. Sorry, I'm moving into the second box because it's hard to write on this. And finally, its distance from 0. Well, we would use those absolute value signs and put negative 101 inside of there, the distance that we chose. Again, we could have chosen lots of things. I could have said negative 200, as long as it fits the situation that was given to us. And we use that symbol, which looks like kind of darker railroad tracks around the outside of the number that they gave us. So if we do the same exact thing for Han, our notes with Han, if I scroll up, Han was our blue, he was right there. Greater than the elevation of the submarine, closer to sea level. So we had made ourselves a little note here in blue that it was going to be above the submarine. Lots of possibilities for above, as long as we know he's closer to sea level. So he could be above sea level, but he can't be higher than 100 feet above sea level because then he'd be even further from zero, and we got to keep him within that 100 range so that he's closer to sea level than that submarine. So I'm going to pick a number and I'm going to do it in blue to match the notes that I had made up above. And Han, all right, we could say, well, he could be 50 feet above sea level. That would be closer to zero, and it would also have him above or greater than the elevation of the submarine. We would say that 50 is greater, so I'm going to open that symbol that way. That's not a 7, that's a greater than symbol. And we're always comparing to that submarine. That submarine is still at negative 100. It hasn't moved, it hasn't changed. Those are supposed to be zeros. I know they don't look like it, but that's a number, negative 100. And distance from sea level, well, we're using our 50 for Han. And distance from zero, absolute value is a distance from zero. It's a positive number and it's my hero. That's a 50. Holy moly, use your imagination on my writing. I'm trying, guys. Got the stylus this time, it's not helping though. So we would do that same concept with Lynn. Lynn was said to, what did I click? I don't know. Close out. Oh shoot, what did I do? All right. Lynn we had in kind of this orangey color. Same distance from sea level as the submarine, so she's 100 feet away from sea level. It doesn't say if she's greater than, less than, positive, or negative, so there we get to choose whether we want her to be, whether we think that she is above or below. I'm going to quit clicking random things here, or at least I'm trying to. So she's either positive 100 or negative 100 because she's the same distance. Comparing to the submarine, well, if we say positive, then she would be greater. If we said negative, she'd be equal to, she'd be the same as, she'd be right there next to it. And anytime we're doing the distance, we're going to use absolute value signs. If I was writing on paper, I would make sure that I was inside the correct boxes. You gotta just bear with me. Thanks for being patient. Sorry. Okay, I really am trying to keep these videos short for you guys, but at the same time, I don't want to miss something that you're going to need in order to be able to do your independent practice. So I am going to take just a couple more minutes. My goal of 10 minutes is proving almost impossible, but I'm trying. I really am. I have it in mind, I promise. All right, and scrolling up, I'll do some more erasing here. Last thing we're going to look at is 7.3, where we talk about inequality mix and match. And with this inequality mix and match, and that's about as good as it's going to get with the erasing, I think, we have some numbers and inequality symbols. We're going to work with a partner. Well, unfortunately, in quarantine, partners are hard to come by. To write true comparison statements. So in this first row, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got a less than symbol. We've got equals and greater than. If I'm just looking to the side, I see symbols. One partner should select two numbers and one comparison symbol and use them to write a true statement. The other partner should write a sentence in words with the same meaning using the following phrases. Okay, so the way that we say it is how we would write it in words then. So I'm going to pick one that starts off with being equal to. I'm going to do that one first because it says we can kind of pick. I'm going to see if I can find anything that's equal to here. And I know that my absolute values are the distance from zero. They become a positive number and it's my hero. So being 8 units away from zero, even in the negative direction, that's actually the same thing as being at 8. So those two are going to be equal to one another. So if I was going to write this in words, then I could say the absolute value of -8 is equal to 8. So the absolute value of -8 is equal to, there's my words, 8. So I'm going to take those and write it as a sentence. I'll give you one last example before I call it quits here, where let's look for one where maybe we can use this greater than or less than. And I'm going to grab this -2.5. Okay, 2.5 in the negative direction is going to be backward 2.5. So if this is 0, I'm going to go backward to the left 2.5. If I also pick 2.5, another 2.5, but this one being a positive, well, one of those is greater. There's no absolute value symbols here, so we're just talking about, if I think money, that's always what sticks in my head. -2.5, well, if I owe somebody $2.50, or if I have $2.50, 2.5, it is better to have the money than to owe the money. So I would say 2.5 is greater than -2.5. So positive 2.5 is greater than, symbols opening toward the bigger thing, if I wrote that number first, -2.5 would be my sentence. As always, check in with one of us math teachers if you've got a question, or email us, or however you can get a hold of us. We miss you guys. See you soon. Bye.